Welcoming you to our LaunchPad webinar on the 19th of Jan. It's actually the 20th of Jan, my apologies. I have my colleague here, Armando, as well. Armando?
Yes, good morning, everyone. Definitely look forward to another version of LaunchPad webinar.
Excellent. Yeah, got some really good stuff lined up for all of you that have joined us today. We'll follow our usual format. We'll start off with the latest news and articles. There's definitely a huge news item that we want to share with everybody, all the ICs that are signed on today, that presents a huge opportunity. So we definitely wanted to focus on that, and there's a huge potential as far as your prospects and your actual clients are concerned with regards to this latest announcement that's just taken place. So we'll be covering that today in our news and article section. And then we also have a really interesting panel discussion that's lined up for our next week's Tuesday webinar. So we want to educate you on what this panel discussion is going to be all about. There's 4 ICs that have volunteered their time. So we definitely appreciate that and thank them in advance. And that's going to be, we'll be discussing that in today's webinar. So kind of setting the stage for what this panel discussion is going to be all about and the topics that we'll be covering next week on Tuesday at 11 a.m. So definitely earmark that date in your calendars, because it is a discussion that you definitely don't want to miss. There's going to be 4 very experienced ICs that are going to be addressing 4 different topics of interest for everybody across the board. Armando's got, I believe, a sales tip. As a matter of fact, I think he's got a case study lined up for this week, which is a pretty interesting case study, because it's actually on web development, web design, and I know that's a bit of a pain point for a lot of the ICs. So it's an interesting case study that Armando has lined up for this week that he's going to be addressing. And then, of course, we'll be finishing off with our Q&A section for the week. Excellent. So let's dive right in over here. So in terms of our first news, this is the big news that we wanted to share with everybody, and this is basically taking place yesterday. We got a lot of notifications and email alerts from the ICs as well. We wanted to make sure that we cover this in our webinar today. Basically, Google's sending out mobile usability warnings to a lot of webmasters in their webmaster tools in their Gmails that are associated with the webmasters account, and I'm pretty sure a lot of you have already received these notifications and seen what they look like. Our clients, a few of our clients received this notification. We got alerted on it, and then this news was picked up by Search Engine Land fairly early yesterday. So this is a huge opportunity, because now you have Google themselves emailing the actual prospects or clients of webmasters that they definitely have issues as far as the mobile aspects of the prospects of the clients' websites are concerned. So now you have some ammunition to go back to your prospects and your clients. It's not just you that's telling them that your website isn't mobile friendly or you have issues related to your website. Now there's an official notification that's coming in from Google. So you should definitely be utilizing this in your sales tactics and your sales strategy. And I would say that this is definitely a huge opportunity for upsells and focusing your efforts for the rest of this month on lining up as many prospects that you can with regards to fixing up their mobile issues. We're trying to see if we can arrange some special promotions at ALM so as to assist you in fixing these mobile issues, and we can arm you with these promotions so that you have better margins when you go to market with some of these solutions to your prospects and your clients. But this is a huge opportunity right now. And when you get an official notification from Google, obviously there's a tendency from the prospects end to panic to a certain extent, especially if they're already aware of digital marketing and how powerful SEO is, and if the organic traffic or the paid traffic's getting them a lot of leads, a lot of results, and they're believers. It's going to be a lot easier to make that sale, because now you can use this pain point to your advantage and focus on the fact that the solution needs to be implemented on their websites right away. So this again presents a big opportunity for us. Google started sending this out in mass quantities. There's a whole bunch of webmasters that have received this notification. So we should definitely be making this a part of our game plan for the rest of January. And if you're sending out newsletters to our prospects, then this should be included in there. I would even say that this warrants an actual phone call to every single prospect and client that we have and educate them on this new change and how you can potentially help them overcome it. So a huge opportunity and news that we wanted to share with the ICs that are signed on our LaunchPad webinar today. All right, so moving on. The other news item that we wanted to share with you was something pretty interesting that Google's doing, and they do this on a periodic basis, but they're basically looking for feedback on search and webmaster tools in terms of what you like about the features in web search and webmaster tools right now, and what are the potential improvements or changes that you want to see. Right, so it's here's the form. We've inserted the link in our slideshow here, and I'm actually going to put the link in the chat box so everybody has access to it. There we go. So that's a link for the survey that Google's doing, and you can put in your nick, your location, save it, and then start submitting a suggestion. But here's what's really cool. You can actually click on view suggestions, so you can actually see what's being suggested by people, and then you can actually mark it as a good suggestion or not a good suggestion. And I'm sure Google's basically looking at the popular votes on what suggestions are getting a lot of yeses, and those are the ones that are going to get priority in terms of implementation. So for example, Luli from Argentina says, Buenos Aires says that it would be nice to see a historic of crawling stats, not only 3 months. I would agree. I think this is a pretty good suggestion, because right now Webmaster Tools only allows you to see historic data for 3 months, and then after that it just deletes the information, right? So this seems to be a pretty popular one, because we have somebody from Poland, Sebastian from Poland, also saying the same thing. I'd like to see Webmaster Tools data for 12 months, not 3. This is an interesting one. Update the disavow tool and provide live status if you requested to remove some URLs, so we can see the status that you received and processed or archived. That's an interesting one. Here's a couple of more interesting ones. Year-on-year comparison by month for impressions and clicks query. That's an interesting one as well. So great. So you can basically, you get the gist. So there's a lot of good suggestions that are happening over here. Your opportunity to put in some suggestions. And of course, we have the power of the cloud behind us, because there's so many WSI consultants, right? So if there is something that's of real interest for us, let's all put in our suggestions and then get the consultants behind us to vote for that suggestion, so that it definitely stands out, and hopefully Google listens to it and implements it. So something interesting that Google's doing. So expect some more changes or updates or enhancements to come in the Webmaster Tools account in the near future. So the other news item was with regards to LinkedIn. Again, we'll have LinkedIn a huge focus of discussion in our panel discussion that's taking place next week on Tuesday. Heidi Schwendi is again kindly volunteered her time to be a part of our panel discussion next week, and she's going to be addressing the power of social selling, which is focused all around LinkedIn, and how she's generated a huge amount of success with LinkedIn. Matter of fact, in the Google breakfast that was recently conducted in Toronto last week, she single-handedly was able to bring out 65 participants for that Google breakfast, and every single one of those 65 participants that she engaged with was done via social selling and via LinkedIn. So just goes on to show you the power of social selling in LinkedIn. So she'll be joining us in our panel discussion next week, and talking a little bit more about her success and her methodology for LinkedIn. So in line with these discussions, LinkedIn's done a couple of changes with regards to their search feature that they have. So they've enhanced it. They're giving you much more information, richer, personalized listings when it comes to their search feature. So to give you an example, initially, when you type in a search name in LinkedIn, you wouldn't be getting their full names. Now, now LinkedIn's actually giving you full names for people when you actually type in their first name and you try and prompt for responses. They're actually giving you full names for these individuals that you're searching for. The other change that LinkedIn has done is that previously, if you did not know somebody and they weren't a part of your network, like for example in this case, you're seeing that the visitor is searching for director of sales at Acme. If they are in your connection, then you'd see their name. For example, Ed Wright is a part of your network, so you'd be seeing his full information. But if somebody wasn't a part of your network, then you'd just simply be seeing LinkedIn member, but you wouldn't necessarily see the rest of their information. Now, after this change that LinkedIn has done, you can actually start seeing names of people that are also not a part of your network, and then you have the opportunity to send them in-mails. And in-mails, you'd have to essentially ramp up your account to a premium account, so in order to send in-mails. But this is another change that LinkedIn has done. The other change that LinkedIn has done is with regards to searching for posts. So they've made their posts feature a lot more advanced. So like, for example, when you click on posts now, you have the ability to search by author. So you can choose as to which author you want to look at in terms of posts and when they posted it. So a date criteria has also been added in the search posts feature. So you can actually start sorting out your posts based on the authors and the dates when these posts went up on these authors' profiles. Again, LinkedIn's definitely trying to do a lot in terms of helping the search feature and the search functionality get a lot better for the users for LinkedIn. I definitely suggest you try these out because these are great enhancements that LinkedIn has done. And these are now applicable not just on the paid segment. Even if you have a basic account, you can see the search function being a lot more robust and being able to do a lot more stuff with your search function now, even with your basic account on LinkedIn. The other news that we wanted to share with you was Zomato. So Zomato is a restaurant website that's fairly active when it comes to, I'd say, the APAC region, Asia Pacific region. They've done a lot of acquisitions over there. Originally started out from India. So the CEO is an Indian guy that started this company, and then he got some VC funding and started buying out little companies. Focused primarily in Asia Pacific to begin with, but they are now making their foray into the U.S. local search market. They recently acquired Urban Spoon for between $50 and $60 million, so as to officially announce their entry into the U.S. local search market. Now, a couple of interesting stats, and the reason why we shared this news with you is because the restaurant's local search is the #1 local search category in the U.S. So the highest number of searches for local searches, I'd say, are in the restaurant category, just to give you a sense of how big this space is, right? And the biggest players as far as the restaurant local search is concerned, the category is concerned, are Yelp, Foursquare, TripAdvisor, Google, Yellow Pages. These are kind of like the big players as far as the local restaurant local search industry is concerned. There's a lot more like, smaller like localized search engines, but these are like the main players at a national level. So Zomato entering this space is now again a website to add, I'd say, as far as your optimization efforts are concerned with this acquisition. So you want to make sure, just like you want to make sure your listing in Yelp is a Foursquare, TripAdvisor, Google, Yellow Pages are being monitored and is fully optimized. Here's another one that you need to add to the list in case you have a restaurant client in your portfolio. Zomato is something that you should also be looking at as far as making sure that your client's website is optimized. So this is another news item that we wanted to share with you in terms of them entering into the U.S. Local search market in the restaurant category. All right, so a lot of you might be familiar with this website, chillingeffects.org, which was a really interesting business study that Chilling Effects had, like in terms of the way that the business model, rather, in terms of how and why Chilling Effects actually got started. So whenever Google would get a takedown request, a DMCA, like a Digital Millennium Copyright Act request, any listing that was infringing the DMCA requests, Google would take it down. What this chillingeffects.org website did was that it would archive all these DMCA requests and publish them on their own website, hence creating another issue. So, for example, let's say that I had something negative said about me or my company, and then I send across Google an official DMCA request saying that, hey, this infringes with in lines with the DMCA, so take my listing down. So Google would take it down, but what would happen is that chillingeffects.org, this website, would basically pick up my request of having Google take down my listing and archive it on their website. So I did fix one problem with Google, but then I created another problem, which was this website chillingeffects.org, kind of like the ripoff report, but a sort of a different model. So this website had been giving a huge nightmare to people, to organizations, and I would say was one of the main offenders in the reputation management category. So you have a list of sites that you want to monitor if you're actively providing the reputation management service, sites like the ripoff report, complaints board, chillingeffects.org. So this was one of 3 sites that you always had to kind of pay attention to and make sure that it wasn't appearing on the first page in instances where you're trying to control your personal or your brand's reputation, right? So the latest news is that because of all the issues that chillingeffects.org was facing, they've basically decided to delist themselves from Google search. So in essence, they haven't really taken down the website, but they've made it really hard for somebody to find information on chillingeffects.org unless they know the website itself. Right, so here's another issue that's been fixed itself as far as reputation management concerns are concerned, are addressed. So Chilling Effects is basically taken itself out of Google's search results. So this website is no longer going to be appearing for any specific keywords, brand names, or what have you. They've basically pulled themselves out of Google's index. But it's not fixed the issue permanently, because if somebody does know this website, chillingeffects.org, they can always go to the website directly and get the information. But it's definitely a huge step as far as fixing this issue is concerned that this website was posing for a lot of business owners. Excellent. So this brings us to our panel discussion that's lined up for the 27th of Jan, which is next week on Tuesday at 11 o'clock. As we mentioned, we always want to try and get you the best practices, the latest news and events that are taking place in the digital marketing industry. So we felt that it'd be really, really interesting and good and for everybody's benefit to get 4 ICs that have establish their expertise in certain areas and share their experiences with the group, right? And also share their plans for 2015 in terms of what they see for their IC business, their IC franchise. So the 4 ICs are Heidi. I think we've spoken a lot about Heidi. Heidi has really established her expertise, I'd say, in the field of social selling. She did the course, and she basically followed the course quite extensively to the T. And it took her a while to nurture her members. And I don't want to steal her thunder away, so we let her talk about this more extensively next week in the webinar. But essentially, I mean, social selling has been a huge success for her. I have never, ever, in my personal opinion, and Armando deals much more closely with Heidi, and feel free to chime in, Armando, but I've never heard Heidi ever complain about leads drying up in her pool, having to pay for leads, investing in a telemarketing agency, doing any sort of aggressive lead generation. I've never had Heidi ever mention that. Correct me if I'm wrong, Armando. So go ahead.
Yeah, no. I think that one of the key things that from our experience working with Heidi is the fact that she has an urgency to always be closing or always be lead generating. So for her, it's one of her primary activities on a daily basis. And I can tell you that, I mean, in working with other ICs, the success for her has been dedication and actually do it on a day-to-day basis. But anyhow, like she said, we don't want to steal her thunder. But yeah, no, I mean, 67 people at the Google breakfast that she pretty much brought and filled up the room, that's a testament to what she's doing is correct.
Absolutely, absolutely. And Heidi's going to talk about how she closed some of these big accounts. Dan mentioned recently in the Google Breakfast that Heidi brought on board Salesforce.com as a client, and it was all done through lead nurturing and through social selling. So she's been able to bring about some pretty large accounts just on the basis of social selling. So we'll have Heidi talking about that aspect, and questions are always welcome. There's definitely ample time that we'd be setting up for a Q&A session with our panelists. So definitely address any questions that you have. If you have any questions in advance, list them out so we can address it in our panel discussion. The second I'm pretty sure all of you are aware of Burns Smith. So Burns is an area rep, a very well-known figure in WSI, and we will be leveraging Burns' expertise. He's been associated with the franchise for a very long time. So we're going to be leveraging Burns' expertise in terms of the common pitfalls, challenges, the pain points that he comes across on a regular basis with the ICs that he is mentoring, and the key takeaways, pointers, suggestions that he has for growing and establishing their business, and some of the areas that he's focusing for his own personal franchise in 2015. So Burns, again, is a wealth of information. He's been in the system long enough. Again, a great individual to really tap into as far as knowledge and expertise just about the WSI franchise network and the system is concerned. We'll also be bringing in Greg Towsley. I've had the pleasure of having conversations with Greg one-on-one, and I think he's one of the smartest individuals in the IC network, especially when it comes to mastering a particular industry. I'm not sure if some of you had seen his recent post that he'd done in Google Groups, where he basically has templated the entire model for success for the plumbing in the HVAC industry, right down to a full complete blueprint. The entire onboarding process, the keyword selection, the links that you go after, the kind of blog posts that you write. He's basically taken the time and the effort to template the entire process for this industry and establish his expertise in this vertical. I believe he's worked on over 40 or 50 different plumbing sites, and has his own plumbing property as well that he manages essentially in order to educate the people on his expertise in this industry. So Greg's again been nice enough to volunteer his time next week and participate in this panel discussion. He'll definitely be elaborating on this blueprint that he's created. We'll be sharing that with everybody so he can kind of take us through that and how potentially we can deploy this for our individual verticals that we are focusing on. What are some of the key takeaways, the gold nuggets that we can look at and extract. And then we also have Joe Madebag joining us for this panel discussion. And Joe recently had a very interesting experience with HubSpot and inbound marketing. Since that's such a buzzword and a hot topic, we definitely felt that Joe would be a real value add as far as this particular panel discussion is concerned. He recently engaged in inbound marketing with this client where he did a website for them, and he went through the whole process of the inbound marketing methodology, which revolves around attract, convert, close, and delight. And so he followed the whole methodology. So here's an IC that we can leverage in terms of actual experience utilizing HubSpot's methodology with his client and achieving a lot of success. So Joe's going to be joining us next week and talking about his experience when it comes to HubSpot and I guess the successes or challenges that he experienced in this whole process that he incorporated with HubSpot. So once again, very lucky to have these 4 experienced participants joining us for our webinar next week. Definitely excited, look forward to it, so please do pencil this down. We will be recording the session, but again, if you do have questions lined up for any of these ICs, we really suggest that you participate in this panel discussion. If you want to invite others, feel free to share the sign-up link for our LaunchPad webinar with any of your colleagues that you'd like in this session as well. Whether WSI or not, it's going to be a great session. So that's going to be taking place next week, Tuesday at 11 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Fantastic. So at this stage, I want to pass it on to Armando. As mentioned, Armando's got a great web redesign case study that's lined up for us for this week. Over to you, Armando.
Thank you, Anish. Great. And well, first of all, looking forward to having the ICs for next week. I think it's going to be a very open forum, and I think it's important because it's also good to hear other successful ICs experiences and also, you know, their challenges. I'm pretty sure they'll share best business practice. So I think I mentioned this last week. If you have a peer IC, a buddy IC that you work with closely, it doesn't come to our webinars, I would recommend you invite them because, you know, there's a few gold nuggets for sure that you will learn. I can assure you for that, specifically from these 4 individuals who have, you know, tried, tested, and true their different methods of marketing, sales, and also just best business practices. So that's excellent. So this week I wanted to share with you another web redesign case study. I know that for a couple of weeks we kind of let go of the case studies. We're doing a bit more of the sales tips, and sales tips will probably come back in February, working on a few things to make sure that we can implement also or help you implement your business from a sales perspective. But there's always a good thing to learn from any case study. And in this case, it's really a company based out of Toronto, Canada, called the Crack Doctor. And what they do is they're a professional, fully accredited waterproofing company. You know, hence the Crack Doctor, even though we do get some chuckles from clients thinking that it's something else, but anyhow. But what they focus on is cracks on web basements from inside or outside. And the IC has been working with this client probably for about a year, and they did have you know, I would say a somewhat decent site prior. There were a few challenges to it, to the old site that they had. One of them is that it was in HTML. They had no content management system. As a result, every time they wanted to make a change, they needed a programmer to do it. And as an IC, you know that those type of small jobs that clients require, from adding a page, adding a logo, you know that, you know, nobody makes money. And as a matter of fact, the client's always trying to nickel and dime you, sometimes even to get, you know, work done. Even though you may tell them that your rate is $65, $75 an hour to do to do something, they may say, well, you know what, I can't believe adding a logo will take an hour. They don't really realize that there is some work to be done there, right? You know, and you want it done properly. So anyhow, the client was at a point where they wanted to have a new, fresh look and convert the site to responsive. The old site wasn't responsive, and this is one of their main lead gen avenues for them, is their website. So it definitely meant for them a lot to make an investment, have more control of the website, and also us as marketeers, we would want a number of elements and features that would allow us to better work with the site, better optimize it, track better conversions, etc. So that's what the Crack Doctor did. They wanted to have a new, fresh look, convert the site to responsive, stronger call to actions, definitely an easy to manage CMS like WordPress versus just a plain HTML site, which they didn't have any control of because the client does not know how to program. So every time they needed to call us or hire a programmer. And also they wanted an area for videos, a bit more designed photo gallery, and they also wanted to optimize locally for a number of offices they have across southern Ontario. So they wanted to have a locations area, and that's going to be a work in progress. And one of the most important things that we were able to work with the client, and I would definitely recommend, if you are dealing with a business that deals with lead generations, you want to be able to have a leads database through WordPress. In this case, we use WordPress as a solution, but you want to be able to have that for a number of reasons. One, obviously, is for the client to have a database that they can turn into an email marketing database in the future, right? We kind of always talked about the power of email marketing, but a leads database, it's very important also to capture information, to have a central repository of where all your leads are, as well as you as an IC to track conversions, okay? Because the moment you don't have control of conversions, even though you may have placed a conversion code on the site, the client can always and will always tell you he's not satisfied with the leads. And I'll get into a little bit on that in the next few minutes, but that was one area that we kind of pushed for. And so at the end of the month when we're doing our reporting, we could say, okay, you know what, we received X amount of leads, What did your sales team do? Remember, part of our goal in our jobs as consultants is to do marketing. We're not the salespeople, so we can bring the best traffic to a site, but if it's not converting because the salesperson is not the right salesperson, or the product is not sexy enough, or the product is not appealing enough, that is beyond you and you as the IC, as a marketeer. Is really also we have to put the onus and the responsibility on the client side, right? So we put that leads database. That was what we kind of talked to him about adding. So the solution, the top little image that you see at the top, it's really their old site. It was non-responsive. It was a little bit too busy, so we wanted to make it a little bit different. And I'm going to ask Vinish in a second if you can kind of go to just click on the link so we can kind of see it. And sorry, Vinish, I forgot to tell you this before the call. And while you do that, I'll continue to talk. So we did have to work with a third-party designer. We do at ALM. We do have that flexibility. You don't, if you have a specific designer that, it's the crack doctor. Yeah, you have to put D in the front. Sorry. If you have your own, designer that you want to work with, definitely it's great. We'll basically work with you to make sure that we put the right technology. The next thing that we did was, we actually, even though we were using a third-party designer, we did provide a lot of guidance. So that's always important because designers like to have a carte blanche in designing, and they'll go and start adding features and functions that are not part of the scope. So in this case, we work very closely with them. We had a slider banner. We kept it to 3 minimum slides. There's also a bit of in right now in the industry. There's a lot of feedback from different companies and experts in regards to the number of is a carousel the right way? And I think that if you have 3 strong call to actions that you want to guide people to, that's not a problem. I mean, you're going to have people that are immediately need your help because they have a crack, right, on their basement, and they need your help today. And then you're gonna have individuals that perhaps starting to see things, and they may take more time in making the decision. We had some funnels also. We have a little bit of content. We were able to add all of their Google Plus locations, recent blog posts, recent tweets, etc. This is also a search feature. If you go to the top, please, Vinish, and if you just click on About, and then go to Photo Gallery. This is very important, specifically. I mean, I'm a homeowner, and I'll tell you that I'm your typical average guy that, I'm not really a handy person. As a matter of fact, I stay away from that. It's good to kind of have an image of what things are. What's a wet basement? How does it look like? What's a bad foundation? So you kind of want, and we're going to be optimizing these areas. So if I see one of these things, I'm like, whoa, I gotta call somebody that knows. So sometimes we have questions. So I thought the photo gallery really would enhance the type of work that he's doing. The next phase is to optimize these individually as well as do some case studies. So it's really something that he didn't have before. Some people talk about web basements, cracks in your walls, and to tell you the truth, the average person may not know of it, so having a photo gallery is good. We also had some videos of a section dedicated to videos. If you go to About again, sorry. Video gallery. Again, we're going to be optimizing these videos. Moving forward, we have a whole strategy with the client where he's going to be doing monthly videos discussing different areas, and we're going to follow best business practices to optimize them as well and create transcripts and so on. So it's going to be he's going to be able to post them here, but also distribute them. The other thing, if you notice, is that we always, in our design, we push for receive your free estimate. So this is for the person that comes to this page at night. And if you want, Venetia, maybe you can go to the version. If you squeeze the screen, you'll see the RWD version, the responsive version. You'll see how it adapts to the screen, and you'll notice that we have that. So the person that needs to contact them right away at night because he has a crack and his basement is flooding, right away he can call your main call to actions. So that was very important because of the nature of the people that they're looking at attracting. We also simplified a little bit actually not a little bit, but a lot, his navigation. in the past, he had about eight or 10 choices, and here we're just really guiding them. What do you need to know about our services, our blog, best business practices, or contact us? So again, try to clean it up as much as possible for him, and also having our strong call to actions in that page. So we try to use all of the best business practices, and I will tell you that we launched the site yesterday, and already we got 2 leads yesterday. So it looks like so far it's working. I'll probably be bringing you an update in the next 3 or 6 months to telling you how effective this website is working for the client. But now I can go back to the IC can go back to the client and say, look, in January we generated 10 leads. Here are the leads. What were your results, right? So again, the whole purpose is to keep your client in his toes as well, because I know that you're doing you and the team are doing a great job in generating traffic for them. We want to see those conversions. So again, that was a whole redesign perspective, and just working with the client and third-party designer. Again, like last week, I mentioned to you that designers will try to add their own things. So if you're going to work with a third-party designer, if possible, try to make sure that the client or the designer gives you the mock-up before it goes into production and before you even quote the project, right? So once you get the actual design PSD file, then you actually create a quote, generate a quote based on that design. If that's a design that the client is approving, he wants all those features, quote it on that. Don't do the fact that the client sells you on his designer and tells you, yeah, don't worry, let's go with this website. It's going to cost $1,500 or $2,000 or $3,000, whatever the cost is. And then you realize once you get the design that there's a lot of different features that are going to, cost more than the planned proposal. So again, I'm pretty sure some of us have had challenges in this situation, hit our face in the wall because we're dealing with third-party designers. Gotta guide those guys, otherwise they're not gonna deliver what you need. The other thing that I learned in this scenario is that not every designer knows how to do responsive. They'll tell you, yeah, I know how to do responsive, and they'll send you 3 mock-ups. They'll send you the desktop, the tablet, and the telephone, but they're not able to actually convert the design to responsive, and that's very important. At ALM, based on our best business practice, we typically do the responsive conversion at the end of the programming stage. And the reason we do that is because we know that throughout the build of the site, there's changes in adjustments that are made from a design perspective during the build that have to be fine-tuned, and therefore we do our responsive conversion at the end of the process. Okay, and we this designer told us from the beginning, yeah, I know how to do responsive, and then when we got the files, we advised the IC that wait a minute, this is not responsive. He sent us mock-ups on how the responsive should look like, but that's not responsive. So make sure that if you're working with a third-party designer, they provide you those files, not only your PSD files, but your sliced or HTML files already in responsive format. Okay, very important. Otherwise, it's going to end up being your cost or an additional cost to the client. Documentation, again, very important. I like to talk a lot about that from my many years of working as a project manager, as business analyst, where we have documentation issues. Really make sure that you have your scope doc very clear with the client, so he's not adding little things at the end. Content migration with a large website. This website was probably over 100 pages, 150, I think it was, and the client thought, well, you can just copy and paste the content, and well, it's not a 5-minute job copying every page. It does take time. It has to be placed properly. Images have to be added. You also have to bring in the metadata, because this site was pretty heavy optimized, so we had to migrate the metadata. We had to migrate about 50 blog posts. So when you're pricing a new website, a website redesign, make sure you take these things into consideration. Apart from what the XML sitemap shares with you, that it's 100 and X amount of pages, you also have to look at things such as metadata, 301 redirects, some of those SEO components that you've added to the site, to make sure that you allocate a budget for that as well. And that was very important. Okay. In this case scenario, they only wanted us to populate 25 pages, so even that was very strategic because we had to populate 25 of the top important pages, so all of the main navigation pages, some of the blog pages, gallery pages, so that way you kind of give them the shell, and the client went in there and basically completed the whole content migration. So it's very important to make sure that you communicate with your team in regards to content migration, and you communicate with your client in regards to the cost of content migration. Manage client during review and revisions. Again, stick to the scope document. If they want review and revisions, not a problem. These are all additional billable upgrades, so make sure that you're not caught in a situation where the client is telling you to add features that are beyond scope and you feel like, oh, I just got to get this client off my back, and you know what, I'm just going to do it for him. But hence, you start losing $100, $200 here, $300 there, and it doesn't become a pleasant experience. So the best thing to do is documentation, manage your client's expectations even during the review process from the design to the build. I know it's easier said than done, but if you set the foundation from the beginning, you begin to educate your client and build that trust. So I'm looking forward to, like I said, sharing more about this client in the next 6 months, because it's one of the clients that we work very closely with the IC and ALM. So definitely we'll be sharing some experiences and also some lessons learned and business practices. Not sure, Avinish, if you want to add your 2 cents.
I think you covered it pretty well, Armando. Web development is and can be a bit of a nightmare for a lot of the ICs. So we don't necessarily encourage some of the new ICs to start on with a web development project just because it is a little technical in nature, and even with all the hand holding that takes place, web dev is inherently a challenging project to take on, especially with all the coding involved, and the technicalities involved. So always be on your guard when you have a web development project that you're bringing on board. Again, we've tried to refine the process over the years with questionnaires and bulletproof checklists and what have you, but there are still some challenges that happen, and that's just the nature of the beast. That's how web development is. We try and make it as seamless as possible, but there is challenges that occur at certain instances that we just have to deal with, right? E-commerce, a whole different beast altogether. All right, so great. Thanks so much, Armando, for this fantastic case study, and the website's looking really, really good. So that's awesome. We should put it up on K2 as well for the benefit of the other ICs. A little bit about us and our contact info here. A lot of questions, so let me start addressing the questions here. Okay, great. So let me go right at the top here. So Mark mentioned the fact that even though Chilling Effects is delisted itself, but when he puts it up on the Chrome bar, he's getting a Super Pages listing highlighting the details that Chilling Effects highlights. So yeah, good observation, Mark. I just hope Super Pages doesn't become the next reputation management nightmare here. The next question was from Mike. I believe we're a little backlogged on our webinars in YouTube. Mike, good observation. We'll definitely be playing catch up over there. We'll make sure that by tomorrow the YouTube channel is uploaded with all of our webinars and everything's back on track. Definitely take care of that. Okay, Mark has a good question. So he asks about projects, the new WSI coding system that is in beta stages right now. So Mark's question is, does WSI projects accommodate coding a project like the Crack Doctor? So our suggestion right now, Mark, would be that use projects because it's great. It actually goes out to all the suppliers and then they all bid on your project. But I would say that with your preferred suppliers, also reach out to them directly. Just because its projects is in beta stages, emails get missed, automated, it's all set up based on autoresponders. So if you do have preferred suppliers, then you reach out to them directly for quotes. But definitely encourage you to use projects as a streamlined way for quotes. And I think Armando has something to add here.
Yeah, that's a very good question, and I think that one of the things that we enjoy ALM, and it's something that also I think it sets us a little bit apart is the fact that we want to talk to you about your quotes. Usually because, apart from the information that you provide to us, there's also additional info that we may have insights to, or that we may require information. So by sending out sometimes just through Project X or email, we may not necessarily just reply. We will probably want to talk to you just because we want to know more about the project, because the last thing is we are providing you a solution that once you deploy it, it doesn't fit what the client needed, and it's because of lack of information. So I think that although it's a great system, human contact and it's also very important. I think that that's what Amalia and myself try to do. We get the team involved, so it's not just two eyes looking at your project proposal request, but also we get the team to give us their feedback as well. So that, directly touching base with your suppliers is very important.
Yeah, good point, Armando. I definitely second that. So Mike had a question on the documentation that you were addressing, Armando. What kind of documentation? Do you have a form that's used to make sure that everything is covered? So I did reply back to Mike telling him that there are standardized questionnaires that we have, and we'll definitely have Amalia send him over a copy of the questionnaires. Did you want to add anything else on the documentation piece for Mike, Armando?
I think also your insertion order. I think that your insertion order is also a good, don't just be as detailed as possible, and we've learned that. I mean, I've learned that. I know that sometimes we just want to get the sale, but in your proposal, be as detailed as possible, and in your insertion order, so you know that that client's getting 2 forms, 3 forms, or a video gallery, what it is implies a basic video gallery or an advanced, because that way when he gets it, you kind of guide him as much as possible. So apart from the questionnaires, which are very important, also your proposal and insertion order should be very clear on what the client is getting, because clients quote unquote forget about what they sign, right? So so that's what I would recommend.
Yeah, great point, Armando. Definitely want to second that, Mike. Have the insertion order really detailed. You can see our insertion orders. You can request Amalia for a copy of our insertion orders, and you'll see that every single line item that we deliver is actually copied, pasted in the insertion order itself. So there is no ambiguity between us and you in terms of what the deliverables are. If it's 2 sliders are going to be mentioned in an insertion order. If it's 3 forms or 4 forms that are being incorporated on the website, that's exactly what's going to be mentioned on that insertion order. Just again, as Armando's mentioned, you definitely don't want to have any disconnect with yourself and the client in terms of what you're delivering, and you want to be paid for any additional work that you do, right? And you should always quote your actual project, and then over and above this, here's an hourly rate that we'd be charging you for anything else that you need done on your website, just so that you have all your bases covered. One of the other things that I've seen, and I'm sure Armando's also noticed this, is the fact that a lot of the ICs still use insertion orders with clients without a proper terms and conditions document. All right, so this is a big challenge that I feel is going to put the ICs in a huge spot of bother, especially on the web development projects, and I'll tell you why. Web development projects tend to drag on. Even though we give the clients a turnaround of 45 days to 60 days as far as turning around projects are concerned, we all know that the clients are never going to produce or deliver content or their feedback on time. So as much as we want to push them, inevitably web development projects just drag on, and it's a core part of our requirements to discipline the clients and keep them on track. But there's challenges associated with that. So in order to overcome that, again, we have a standard terms and conditions document that we encourage. It's pretty detailed. We've spent a lot of money on it. It's been vetted by our lawyers, and we willingly will share that with you since we've already made the investment. Take a look at that terms and conditions document and then tailor it to your territory, right? Because ours is specific to the province of Ontario, but you can tailor it to your state, and make sure that I would say specifically for web development, but this is true across the board, whenever you're selling anything to any client, you should have a very strong terms and conditions document at the end of the day. In our terms and conditions, we cover things like, hey, if there's anything that's said about your brand out there, or if your brand is misrepresented or represented in any way whatsoever, a blogger picks up on the brand or an article and posts a negative comment on it, that makes the client lose some revenue. The client's going to try and hold you accountable for that. These are things that you have to keep yourself protected with. and not something that is most likely to happen based on a relationship with a client, but you always want to be on the safe side, right? So definitely have a strong terms and conditions. We have a 20 bullet point terms and conditions that we get the ICs to sign on. You should do the same with the client. Keep yourself protected, right? So yeah, good points on the documentation there, Armando. Thanks for that. Adrian has a bit of, I guess, a bit of deja vu where he talks about great points for us to consider. I messed up in the past in the exact points that you just brought up. Trust me, everybody's been there, Adrian. You're not the only one. Mike, thank you. Big miscommunication with Mali on an e-commerce site a few weeks back, and this will definitely help. Terrific. Adrian would like us to share the terms and conditions. Oh, absolutely, Adrian. Yep, just shoot us an email either to Armando at wsilm.com or info@wsilm.com, and we'll shoot across a copy of our terms and conditions for you to look at for sure. No worries. A couple of questions on our panel discussion for next week. So the link is the same for signing up for a LaunchPad webinar series. So just circulate that link to any of your colleagues that want to join us for that panel discussion. And yeah, just be on for 11 o'clock Eastern Daylight Time for next week on Tuesday. And pretty excited about that discussion taking place next week. That's it. I think that's all the questions that we have. Great. This was a fantastic webinar. Thanks for participating so actively. Great questions. And we really look forward to our panel discussion. And once again, thank all the 4 ICs in advance for their valuable time. And we look forward to our discussion next week. And have a terrific week, everyone. See you next week.
Take care, everybody. Bye.